D'accord, alors je pense qu'on est prêt pour commencer. Pour ceux qui me connaissent pas,
Okay,
mon nom
so
c'est
I think
Jeremy
we're ready to
Ryan
start.
et je suis le
For those
directeur
who
des
don't know me,
services et
my name is
informations
Jeremy
aux
Ryan. I am
consommateurs
Director of
à
Consumer
l'Agence de
Services and
promotion
Information at the
canadienne de
Financial
l'information.
Consumer Agency of
Before we
Canada.
transition to today's main event, I'd like to go through some housekeeping items for our virtual audience. Simultaneous translation is available in English and French. Simply select the language of your choice in the upper right corner of your screen. To access closed captioning, click on the closed caption button below the video window. Captions will appear in a box below the window. To access the floor audio, which is bilingual with no interpretation, click on the floor audio button below the window. If you encounter any technical issues, please click on the technical support link at the top of your screen and a technician will help you. Finally, this session will be recorded for internal purposes only. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem, to provide opening remarks and set the stage for today's celebration of Financial Literacy Month. Governor, over to you.
Well, thank you, Jeremy, and bienvenue à tous. Welcome to everybody.
Welcome to all.
I'm so pleased you're here, and I do want to welcome you to the Bank of Canada's Currency Museum. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the land of the First Nations, the Inuit, and the Métis, and we pay our respects to Indigenous peoples and to their ancestors for their immeasurable contributions to this country. This is the first day of Financial Literacy Month, and it's the first time we've been able to launch it in person since the pandemic. It is wonderful to see some real live faces and be here in person, and I want to welcome everybody who's joining us virtually. At the Bank of Canada, it is our job to promote the economic and financial welfare of Canadians. But it's not something we can do alone. Working with our partners, working with you is critically important to how we do this work. And events like Financial Literacy Month are really helpful in this regard. Il faut travailler ensemble pour améliorer la
We have to work together to improve the financial resilience, the financial literacy, and the financial ecosystem of Canada. And our partners of the public and private sector and the nonprofit sector have an important role to play in this.
The theme of Financial Literacy Month is managing your money in a changing world. It could hardly be more appropriate. Our economy has undergone significant changes in recent years. In the last 2 years, the cost of living has increased a lot. Inflation's coming down, but the higher interest rates that are bringing it down are squeezing many Canadians. At the same time, financial service industry is evolving and innovating with new products and new services. For all these reasons and many more, it has never been a better time to learn more about managing your money. Financial Literacy Month helps people do exactly that. It is led by the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, which engages with Canadians throughout the month of November to help strengthen financial literacy. And we're very proud to be one of your partners. The initiative is part of the agency's National Financial Literacy Strategy. This initiative empowers Canadians to manage their money and debt wisely, to save adequately for the future, and understand their financial rights. The agency, working with all of you, will engage with Canadians across the country to develop their ability to navigate financial decisions in challenging economic times. Nous devons tout veiller à la sûreté et à la
We must make sure to protect the prosperity and the financial ecosystem of Canada. We take this responsibility very seriously. The government, the regulators, the private sector, and community organizations contribute to the accomplishment of this objective. The Financial Consumer Agency of Canada commits itself to promote financial literacy, and we share this commitment. The Bank of Canada Museum works for this every day.
I really hope you could take a few minutes to visit some of the exhibits we have today. The museum's newest exhibition is called Money in 10 Questions, Kids Edition, and it answers some of the most common questions about money. It is currently on display here in Ottawa, but it will be touring museums across Canada beginning in January 2025. And many of our educational resources and activities are available for people across the country at our Bank of Canada Museum website called, you guessed it, bankofcanadamuseum.com. Et nos ressources en français sont disponibles.
And our French resources are available on the website of the Bank of Canada website. You will find educational activities which will help to understand the financial system.
Is complex. But thanks to the contributions of the agency and everyone who participates in Financial Literacy Month, more Canadians will have the tools they need to manage their money in a changing world. So welcome again to the Bank of Canada Currency Museum, and welcome to Financial Literacy Month. And with that, I will hand the microphone back to Jeremy. I am excited to learn about what the agency has in store for Financial Literacy Month 2023. Donc merci, bienvenue.
So thank you, welcome.
Thank you, Governor. That was a great introduction to today's event. The Bank of Canada Museum really is the perfect venue in which to launch Financial Literacy Month, and we thank you for hosting us again this year. Just a reminder, and as mentioned by the Governor, that the museum will be open for another hour after the event until 3 p.m. so that you can take in the special exhibit, Money and 10 Questions, Kids Edition. So one theme that you'll be hearing a lot today is the importance of financial literacy. You know it's important, I know it's important, but what do Canadians think? Well, we took to the streets of Ottawa to find out. Let's hear from their own money management tips and about their journey towards financial literacy. Can you please roll the video?
Le plus important est de planifier ses dépenses. Lorsqu'on planifie ses dépenses, même lorsqu'il y a des imprévus, c'est plus facile à gérer.
I'm a saver. I just actually put money away constantly.
J'ai un agenda papier. Je suis ce genre-là. Je suis de la vieille génération, alors j'ai mon côté budget. Ouais. J'ai mes pages budget où j'essaie de balancer mes acquis avec ce que je vais dépenser.
Just keep money on the side as much as you can. You know, if for example, I don't know, you used to buy shampoo or you used to like go to a hairdresser and you're not, then that money should be kept aside. If you can, save it, you know, so that it builds over time.
De bien séparer les économies pour les impôts, les économies pour les vacances, les économies pour les choses obligatoires, de bien faire des comptes bien séparés.
Grâce à ma mère. Ma mère, elle est italienne. Elle a vécu l'Italie d'après-guerre. Très, très économe, très, très regardante sur l'argent. J'ai appris ça à l'école parce que j'ai eu des cours d'économie, le cours de gestion sur ses dépenses.
Avec ma maman, l'argent, c'était quelque chose on parlait pas beaucoup. Moi, je pense que j'ai appris à mettre de l'argent de côté quand je l'ai connu. Et puis d'avoir des fois trop dépensé. Puis à force de plus avoir d'argent, là, j'ai appris à mettre de côté. Mais je pense que j'ai appris à économiser avec elle.
Donc moi, personnellement, j'ai appris sur le tas, en observant, en cherchant des cours, et également grâce à mes parents.
My parents never knew about, you know, how to invest or how to, you know, get money from the bank. And it's really hard as a first generation Canadian because you're unsure where to go.
Il ne s'agirait pas simplement de limiter ses dépenses, mais il faut savoir comment
comment établir déjà ces budgets-là.
Je sais pas si j'aurais aimé l'apprendre plus tôt, mais j'aurais aimé l'appliquer plus tôt. Faire des économies puis pas gaspiller inutilement.
L'argent, c'est un outil. C'est pas la chose la plus importante dans la vie, mais comme tout outil, il faut savoir bien l'utiliser.
Et voilà. I don't buy shampoo,
And there.
I'm able to say. Ce qu'on vient de voir, c'est vraiment un aperçu révélateur.
What we've seen is an eye-opening glimpse at where and from whom these Canadians were introduced to financial literacy. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Judith Robertson, Commissioner of the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. Please join me in welcoming Judith on the podium.
Merci, Jeremy. Hello, everyone. Bonjour, tout le monde. Excuse-moi. I'd like to start my remarks with a few very important thank yous. First, to the Governor, thank you so much for your insightful remarks and for your support. This is the second year in a row that you have joined us on the launch, and it really is meaningful to us. So, merci beaucoup. Merci également au musée.
I'd also like to thank the Museum of the Bank of Canada, which is welcoming us today, and especially thank you to you all for being here today, either in person or virtually.
The success of Financial Literacy Month is thanks to the support of our important partners and the many dedicated community organizations across the country. I hope you enjoyed those interviews as much as I did. It was really great to hear people speak in their own words. And I was struck by the common theme of wishing they had started budgeting and saving earlier. It's not that we don't know, but sometimes we need a little help to get started. Cela souligne vraiment l'importance.
This really showcases the importance of financial literacy and of our presence to all here today. As the Governor said so, this year, Financial Literacy Month has the theme Managing Your Money in an Evolving World.
FCAC will be encouraging Canadians to check up on their financial health, and we will be emphasizing managing debt. We all know that Canadians are facing many financial challenges, and managing debt is one of the best ways to achieve positive financial outcomes over the long term. J'espère que vous allez
I
continuer.
hope that you will continue, you two, to focus on this important theme, because when we all engage together around a common objective, that's when we can really have a large impact.
Your organizations have embraced the principles of the National Financial Literacy Strategy, and you'll hear more about that later, which is founded on research and collaboration and recognizes that achieving positive financial outcomes is a shared responsibility. Nous avons tous un rôle à jouer.
We all have a role to play, whether the industry, community organizations, and of course, public administrations and regulatory organizations.
Consumer protection mandate. We use the insights from our research to focus our areas of regulatory attention, and we use the issues identified through our oversight role as inputs to our work on policy and financial literacy. Je vais vous expliquer comment tout ça
I will explain how all this works using a recent example.
FCAC's monthly survey of Canadians' financial well-being indicated that 2/3 of Canadians with a mortgage were having trouble meeting their financial commitments, a substantial increase over the past 3 years. That research insight supported our guidance to banks we issued in July, which sets out our expectations for how banks should provide proactive support to mortgage holders facing severe financial stress. Les institutions financières
Financial institutions will have to report to the FCAC on the implementation of these measures.
utiliseront ces données
And we will use this data as input for subsequent research and supervisory measures.
gaining insights through the data collected as the result of the new financial consumer protection framework and the measurement plan associated with the national strategy. Moving forward, FCC will also be taking steps to make sure that Canadians continue to have access to basic banking services. Par exemple, la CFC
For
mène
example, the FCC is examining the commitments of banks to offer low cost or free bank accounts to consumers.
our research and outreach. The review will focus on updating the features of low-cost and no-cost accounts to reflect the realities of modern banking. Grâce à ces mesures,
Thanks to these measures, the FCC is fulfilling its mandate and contributes to reaching the objectives of the National Strategy for Financial Literacy. And the Financial Literacy Month gives us a wonderful opportunity to move even more forward.
collective effort, we can move forward to improving financial outcomes for consumers and Canadians, even in the face of change and challenge. When we work together, we can make change that counts. Merci beaucoup. Et maintenant,
So thank you very much. And now I'll give the floor back to Jeremy.
Je vous remercie beaucoup, Madame la Commissaire, d'avoir ajouté le...
Thank you very much, Commissioner, for adding context on how the ACFC uses all these levers to bring positive changes to the consumers and increase their protection. I would now like to invite the first of today's two guest speakers to the stage. She's been communicating and simplifying money topics since her first conference for Desjardins My Finances, My Choices campaign when she was 18 years old, and she specializes in workshops for newcomers and immigrants. Since her nomination as the Le Soleil Radio-Canada laureate in 2008, several organizations have called upon her expertise as a panel host for their annual events. We therefore welcome Marianne Spear.
Bonjour.
So good day. Okay, it works. So good day, my name is Marianne Spear. It's a great honor to be speaking to you today. So first of all, I'd like to thank FCFC for this invitation, as well as thank all the people who are here today. Thank them for their attention. I won't dwell on the seriousness of the situation. As stakeholders in the financial community, I assume that we're all aware of the debt situation in this country, as well as the vulnerability it exposes low-income households to. As human beings, I assume that we're all aware of the effects that financial stress has on the quality of our life. Today, what I deeply want to share with you is that I've seen the effects of a better understanding of how to manage money and debt and what this can have on a consumer's financial resilience. I've seen the worried looks turn into relief. I've seen their distress, their shame, and guilt turned into solutions and empathy for themselves and for the situation they're in. That's the critical role of an ecosystem that is prepared for financial education. This is the crucial role that we have to play with consumers. And if you're not yet convinced, which would surprise me, but anyway, for the good of my speech, here are 3 true stories which show the power that financial literacy gives back to consumers in a debt management context. So Carlos, first year in Canada. Carlos arrived in Canada from Colombia in 2020 He was already taking French courses in his home country, which allowed him to integrate quickly. And already a few months after he arrived in Canada, Carlos was already at level 4 French, the most advanced level. So I met Carlos in one of his French classes, where I was giving a workshop on the tax system in Canada. Extremely passionate, very, very interesting. So at the end of the workshop, Carlos came to see me, and he was worried. He explained that his account was in a negative, and he couldn't understand why. I asked him to show me what was going on, so he accepted. That's when I realized that actually he was talking about his credit card account. So I explained to him that he had just paid off more than the balance owed on his card. Yay! To which he replied with the same worried look, "Is this serious? Am I going to be charged a fee because I paid too much on my credit card?" It can seem trivial, but for somebody who's going through such a major adjustment period, the explanation I was able to give him was a real source of relief. The story of Carlos demonstrates the role of financial educational organizations like the one I was working with to deliver these workshops. By encouraging these organizations and the training of financial educators, we encourage people like Carlos to open up about situations they're worried about so they can take action.
Justine, 27 ans, travaillait.
Justine, 27 years old, social worker. Justine is a close family friend. I often see her in our events. Justine loves her job. She doesn't earn a lot of money, but she thrives on her professional responsibilities and wouldn't change jobs for everything in the world. She spends most of her time helping people through critical periods in their lives. She's used to giving help and advice, but not to receive help or advice. Justine has a credit card she can't pay off, and she ended up convincing herself that that's just reality when it comes to credit. A maxed out credit card, sometimes even more than maxed out, toward which she can make small payments when her budget allows. She said, "If one day I inherit some money, I'll be able to pay off my credit card." After talking with Justine, I realized that credit cards were the only credit product she knew about. I briefly explained the lines of credit, and I encouraged her to take an appointment at her bank. In the beginning, she was very hesitant. She didn't want to get even more credit products. Already, she was having a hard time with her credit card. Nevertheless, she made an appointment. A few months later, Justine called me, and her voice was full of pride. During her appointment at the bank, the advisor opened a personal loan for her, transferred her credit card balance, and Justine made the periodic payments until she paid out the loan in full. What's more, she told me that during her appointment, she asked her advisor why he was offering her a loan rather than a line of credit, since the interest rate was higher on the loan. But Justine was very proud of being able to ask that question because it showed that she knew what she was talking about. So she ultimately agreed with the advisor that the loan was a better option in her case, given her repayment history. Once Justine got a taste of this pride, managing her credit card was no longer a problem. Even as we speak, her plan to become a homeowner has become accessible. The story of Justine shows the importance of thinking about how to meet different needs. In the context of money and debt management, it's essential to have access to good advice and to choose your financial products according to your needs and objectives. When we have financial struggles, it's important to have access to reliable and affordable help. Maybe do you recognize the third person, Marianne Spear, but 14 years old. I was 14 years old when I opened my first savings account. The advisor suggested I open a high interest savings account. I knew nothing about finance. I was 14 years old, and when the first summer I was selling strawberries in a stand. On the other hand, I heard my father complain about interest rates. Interest on the house, on the car, on credit cards. And then my advisor told me that there's interest on my savings account. I was like, ooh, cheapers. Banks really take all opportunities to make more money. But I kept my astonishment to myself. You know, who am I going to tell? Who am I to tell my advisor that they're not making sense? It's only once I got to secondary 5 in my math class that I understood that I wasn't paying interest on my high interest savings account. It's the opposite. And no, I hadn't figured that out before because I didn't earn a lot of money selling strawberries in Quebec. Also, I didn't feel like saving because I thought there was going to be interest. So I said, I'll wait before putting a lot of money in my bank account. And the interest rates in those days were so low, that the yields, well, I didn't understand that. Now in this story, I'd like to thank my math teacher because he took the initiative to include a financial and math component in our curriculum. It wasn't compulsory. I think today it's compulsory. Financial literacy is fundamental. It allows us to gain confidence and financial skills. My story demonstrates the impact that departments of education has on developing the knowledge that helps people make financial decisions. It's important to create an ecosystem that educates people about the basics and that communicates in a way people can understand. So these 3 little stories might seem trivial to you, but at the scale of the whole society, there are millions of similar stories that could be told. That's why the National Financial Literacy Strategy focuses on the role of the ecosystem in managing money and debt, not just on the role of the individual. And in all these stories that could be told, there are always 2 possible directions. One where financial literacy never happens and misunderstandings persist, and one where skills are developed that allow us to implement our personal projects. Personal projects that throughout the country can translate to a healthy job market, seniors who feel confident about their retirement plans,
des étudiants motivés.
Students who stay motivated despite the cost of their journey. In 2023, in the midst of the fight against inflation, amongst the many rate hikes, debt management is at the heart of consumers' financial resilience. While the importance of a budget is rightly hammered into the ears of consumers, we cannot pretend that the solution lies only in having a good budget. Indeed, the National Strategy for Financial Literacy highlights 2 other elements that are essential to building resilience.
Le premier élément est d'avoir les compétences.
The first element is having the skills to navigate the financial marketplace. For the majority of consumers, the gateway to the financial markets is their bank, their financial security advisor, or their financial planner. Let's rise to the occasion. Let's rise to the occasion in our explanations to consumers and in the way we train those who deal with consumers. The second key element highlighted in the national strategy is building just-in-time financial knowledge and confidence. Let's be mindful of this. Let us work with the national strategy to create an ecosystem where each of the stakeholders always allows trust and knowledge to develop in a timely manner. It's important to understand your credit card balance when you receive your credit card. Understanding the various types of credits is important when you reach the age of majority. Understanding how interest works when you open a savings account, it's important because it's the same operation as for interest on loans, because the interests are often much higher. So today I have chosen to share these 3 stories with you today to convey an inspiring message of hope. And this is possible when the ecosystem and the individual work in the same direction towards financial resilience. It is not up to the consumer alone to bear this responsibility. But the fact that you're all here today, either in person or virtually, means that you are the most inspiring element of my speech. Thank you.
Merci Marianne de souligner l'importance.
Thank you, Marianne, for showing the importance of the education of Canadians on the basic principles of financial literacy and the positive impact that these basic principles can have on their financial well-being.
Now, I'd like to invite the second of our guest speaker today to come up. She's a nationally syndicated columnist, journalist, host, and personal finance expert with a passion for teaching Canadians how to better understand their money and achieve their goals through financial wellness. With more than 20 years of experience in broadcast journalism, public speaking, and hosting, she has appeared on every major Canadian news network, including the CBC, Global, CTV, BNN, CP24, as well as the BBC and the UK. Please join me in welcoming Rubina Ahmed-Haq.
Bonjour tout le monde. Merci.
Good day, all. Thank you for having invited me here today.
To FCAC for inviting me here today to speak. My name is Rubina Ahmed-Haq, and I am so honored to be here today on the first day of Financial Literacy Month. As you mentioned, Jeremy, I have been working as a journalist for 20 plus years, but 15 of those years I've spent covering personal finance. I started doing that back in 2008 during the depths of the financial crisis. And so I feel like I have learned along with Canadians about my own financial literacy and how personal finance information is so important. For those of you who don't know me, I work in radio, TV, print, and online. I interview Canadians regularly on my radio show and for my TV segments. Those people who really, what I say, live at the fringe of their finances. So they are living paycheck to paycheck. They are struggling to pay down their debt. They're maybe in a low income situation as well, where they're feeling like they simply can't make ends meet. I also consult with a major airline with their employees on their financial wellness. And I have to say this year they've won a few awards for financial wellness. So I'm very proud of that as well. And through them, because as you know, people who work at airlines, some of them that start at the bottom are working just above minimum wage. I've had the privilege of speaking to a number of different people who have said, how can I make ends meet when I only make $18, $19 an hour, and I'm living in a big expensive city like Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa, Montreal, name any Canadian city, and that's the reality for it. My focus has always been to make money news available to everyone. And when I think about the way that I communicate money news, I think about my 70-year-old mother, and I think about my 10-year-old nephew, and I think about all the people in between. Would this story make sense to them? So if it's big economic news that's come out this morning and it's headline news on BNN, why would my 10-year-old nephew care? If it's corporate earnings from a company that nobody really understands even what they do, why should my mother care? And if there's an international trade deal happening somewhere and the federal government has, really applauding the fact that this is happening, why should everyday Canadians care? And I always try to promote my stories through the lens of financial wellness. How can this make your life better through teaching you more about money, about making your life more financially well? And especially to those who don't make a lot of money, because I think that we focus, sometimes more on how to invest for the future and how to save money for that down payment. But what about individuals who are deciding between whether they can afford eggs that week or not, right? So those are the people that I really think about when I'm doing my stories. My goal has always been, if anyone's followed me from the beginning, I had a blog long time ago called alwayssavemoney.com. I still have it, but I don't really do much there. And my goal has always been to teach Canadians to save before they spend. Always save money so that you always have money for the future. My top concerns that I have been hearing from Canadians as I do my work is one, housing affordability, right? So that is on the minds of everybody. How am I going to afford to pay my rent? How am I going to afford to buy a house? And so from my point of view, that has always been number one. That has been number one for the last few years. Mounting debt payments, so Canadians just feeling like they can't catch up on not just their mortgage, their credit card, money they've taken out of their line of credit, et cetera, et cetera. Inability to save money for the future. I'm a little bit short, so I can't see that one. Inability to save money for the future. And this is a big one, feeling trapped in their life. So a lot of people, especially in the city of Toronto, I have to say, who have rented an apartment and they've been in there 5 or 6 years, and they have an opportunity to take a job across the city, but they know if they leave that apartment, they can't afford market rent across the city. So they have to actually give up that job because they can't afford to live where that job is. And so then they feel trapped in the lifestyle or in the life that they currently have, and they don't see a way out. Having a low paying job, this is something I hear from young people all the time. I went to university, I went to college, I did all the right things, I took all the right courses. Why am I not making the salary that I thought that I would be making at this time, despite my education? And increased cost to raise families. So StatsCan recently put out some numbers about the cost to raise children. And a lot of people will look at those numbers and say, wow, how am I going to afford these hundreds of thousands of dollars to put my children, not just through daycare, but then, you know, as they grow, all the extracurricular activities, education, post-secondary education being so expensive. So today I wanted to come here and speak from my lens and my point of view of the things that I've been hearing and seeing from people that I interview. And the 3 things that I wanted to talk about today is the current state of financial literacy in Canada from the way that I see it, where we can start to help the people that need it the most, like some of those people that I just mentioned, and areas where we can improve as money communicators, because I think there is still areas where we lack in getting the right kind of messages out there to the people that need it the most. I wanted to sort of just say some good news that I've observed over the last 15 years is that people have an appetite for financial literacy like I've never seen before. Back when I started in 2008, I would teach things like, you know, how to open an RSP, how to spend less than you save, these basic sort of elements of personal finance. But now, especially young Canadians, they want to hear more than just the basics. They want to hear more about more sophisticated products. They want to hear about how they can live a better life, and they don't want just putting money in jars and sort of figuring out how to budget their life. So this year's theme for Financial Literacy Month is managing your money in a changing world. And as you know, the Bank of Canada governor said, as Marianne said, the world has changed tremendously in the last 3 years. But I really think even in the last 15 years since I've been covering personal finance has been the most dramatic change. We do everything on our phone. And I think that we really, as money communicators, have to understand that we can't teach money lessons through giving out dollar bills anymore or loonies anymore. We really have to understand the digital world and how that has changed. We pay our bills on our phone, at least I do. We pay for things from using our watch. We move money around very easily. You know, I made a CRA payment the other day from my phone. Who could have imagined that, you know, even 5 or 6 years ago, that you'd make such a serious bill payment just by using the digital technology that's in your hands. When I cover financial literacy, one of the I love when I want to go back to just saying how much things have changed when it comes to how people are absorbing information differently. And the one thing that I have noticed that when I do stories, I get a lot of people asking questions as to where they can hear more. So for example, if I talk about consolidating debt, I'll get somebody emailing me saying, I did that, and I took your advice, or I took the advice of your guest, and I did that. Or if I have a new tech company on my show that talks about a new way that you can save money, a new innovative way that you can grow your wealth, people emailing me saying, can you tell us more about that? So there's a real appetite for people to learn more about money, and I think that that's really important for us to know that. Young people especially, and that's one group I focus a lot on, because obviously starting young is going to build your wealth in a way that you can never really catch up, as we always talk about, even in your 40s and 50s. Young people want to learn things quickly, and they want hacks, and they want quick tips as to what they can do. They don't want something that's going to take them 3 or 4 days to wade through the information. I did a story recently about the 100 envelope challenge. So essentially you buy 100 envelopes, you put them in a bucket, you write 1 to 100, you take out an envelope a day, you save the money of the number that's on the envelope, and at the end you have $5,050. So it's really a way of flexing that savings muscle. It's really about teaching people that consistently over time you can save money. I got so many emails and tweets and all the rest through social media as to where they can do this. They weren't listening to the whole interview, I guess. And so I said, you don't need to go and buy something. You just go and find 100 envelopes and you do this. But it really, it showed me that young people especially love when you share information with them in a way that's quick and easy. And as long as it gets them into that mode of saving, I think that that is a good thing. On a side note, though, with young people, the one thing I am most concerned about is information online. Wall Street bros, we've all heard about Reddit conversations that happen, everything that happened with all the meme stocks. These things really concern me because people have legitimately lost a lot of money by following advice that is not filtered, and it is coming from people that do not have the expertise to give it. From the beginning, I've always focused on lower income Canadians and making sure that the information that I'm providing is relevant to them. It's not just, for people who have money to make more money. Single parent families who are on one income, more and more in Canada, we see that having two incomes is the norm. And if you live on one income, it's very difficult sometimes to make all those bills. Those students that are graduating in a lot of student debt and then finding it hard to find a job that helps them pay all their bills. So focusing on them, how they can manage some of their expectations after graduation, and also how they can start to pay that debt down. And finally, the group that I'm most concerned about is those individuals, young people who have spent years saving for their home and their down payment, bought a home in 2020 or 2021, and have only seen interest rates rise, cost of living rise, and their home value fall, and how vulnerable they are going forward in the next 5, 6, maybe even 10 years. And I think as money communicators, these are the people that need our attention. So where can we start to help the people that are struggling the most? So I think this is true. We're already doing this, but we need to reach people where they are. I think about my mom, who arrived here in the 1970s, very little English, zero understanding of the banking system. There's no way anyone could have encouraged her to go into a bank and have a conversation with somebody across the desk. You need to reach people where they are. You need to reach people in the language that they speak, and also have a cultural understanding that, recently I met someone from Cuba who said, there is no concept of credit card when I grew up. I did not even know how a credit card worked. So understanding that some people come from a place where there are systems that we have here that are so common to us that don't even exist. I want to help people feel empowered. And I think that we need to increasingly do this, especially with those people who are making minimum wage and feeling like they're stuck, or making lower income and feeling like they'll never get out of that lifestyle, helping them feel empowered, getting the message to them how they can manage their money better. There is definitely a group of people where there really is no money left over at the end. But generally speaking, if you look at the way you spend money, there's always somewhere where you can edit, always somewhere you can cut back. So teaching Canadians about that, teaching people to budget for all of your bills. It's amazing how many people you meet where they don't know when their bills are due, they don't know when they come out of which bank account, and often they're in overdraft, or they're bouncing a check, or they're behind on their bills. And of course, like I said, first-time home buyers, I think we need to focus more on them, as FCAC does, by providing them more impartial advice when they make that decision. When you buy a house, everybody who is working with you is invested in you purchasing that house. The agent, the mortgage broker, the real estate lawyer, there's no one there actually giving you impartial advice. And I think that's where financial planners really can step up and look at you and say, you can't afford this house, or you can afford this house if you get rid of this car, or you can do this if you work a few more hours in the job that you're currently in. Even though I talk about people wanting more than the basics, I still think it's important to continue to teach the basics, especially to people who are needing the most amount of help. So teaching them about the benefits of having a rainy day fund, teaching them how to build the rainy day fund. So a lot of people will say, okay, I have a rainy day fund, but how much money should I put in there? $1,000, $20,000? I mean, there has to be some parameters as to how much money you put in. Teaching people, of course, about the benefit of retirement savings, telling people to live within their means, understanding how credit card debt works. I'm still surprised that people don't understand the difference between credit card debt, mortgage debt, line of credit debt, payday loans, all these different credit products that exist, and how the interest works on those different products. And so that can get, especially people who are new to the system, get them into a lot of trouble by getting into more debt than they can afford. Understanding what a prime rate is. Sometimes people will say to me, well, the Bank of Canada rate is 5%. How come I'm paying this? And you have to sometimes make the disconnect as to why someone would feel that what the Bank of Canada is announcing is what they should be getting when they walk through the bank. And having a clear understanding when it comes to managing your money about what a fixed rate is, a variable rate, so these sort of basic things that I think that people need. And this is something Marianne also discussed, is the importance of just-in-time information. So when a person takes out a mortgage, when they sign up for a credit card, when they apply for a line of credit, when they go for student debt, that's when they need the information. We can plaster it everywhere, but unless you give it to them when they are actually in the motion of taking out that debt, it's going to be difficult for them to actually let it marinate and figure out whether that's the right decision for them. One of the things that I have heard from variable rate mortgage holders in the last year I'd say, is that they did not feel that the mortgage brokers that they were working with gave them the right information. And they did not understand that when interest rates went up, that their payments would go up so quickly. So really, especially with new Canadians, helping them understand this is what happens to your mortgage when interest rates rise or fall. This is what happens when you renew. How many people have gone in and calculated, oh wow, this is what my fixed rate is going to look like when I renew next year. So what can we do to help? The one thing I really think that we need to do is we also need to make people more realistic about the financial situation they are in. I hear all the time someone making $75,000 a year saying they're going to save $200,000 in a couple of years' time to buy that house. And I'm saying, are you not going to buy anything else in your life? Is that all you're going to do in the next 2 or 3 years? Or a young person thinking they did all the research, they're going to graduate from university, they're going to make a 6-figure salary day one out of college or university. And that we know is not the case for a lot of young people. They start at a much lower salary. Or stay-at-home parents who believe their spouse taking care of all the bills is okay, and that they don't really need to pay attention because that's too complicated. And also parents who are saving for their kids' education, but at the peril of not saving for their own retirement. So I always say to parents, it's better for you to put your retirement savings first than your kids' education, because you can always, they can always borrow for their education. You cannot borrow for your retirement. So that brings me to areas that we need the most improvement, us in this room as money communicators, the places where we could make the biggest impact. Some of the things I've already talked about, how to negotiate a higher wage or a promotion. As we more and more work remotely, a lot of workers are finding it difficult to find the way of how to speak to their manager. You can't do the proverbial knock on the door and say, hey, do you think there would be something available for me that might put me in a different position in this job? Helping young people, like I mentioned, set realistic goals for their future. Teaching people the perils of shopping apps. We don't have that tension anymore when cash leaves our hand and it goes into a merchant's hand and we get the change back, and then you get a thing, and then you go home and you recycle that thing, and then that's the end of that. We don't have that anymore. We buy toilet paper online, it comes to our door, and we don't really ever feel that that money has left our wallets. More resources, like I mentioned, for first-time home buyers, and putting our needs first before our children. I always am so disappointed when I hear parents spend $2,000 on their baby's first birthday, but they are ignoring their debt, their retirement savings, and everything else that's going on with it. Thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to share this one comment before I left, because as I was writing this speech, I just went to Facebook sort of, to do a little downtime. And someone wrote on Facebook, and I often find that this is a good place. This is the real test of what really people are talking about, is the parent chat groups or the mom chat groups. And a mom in earnest wrote, how much are you currently spending per week on groceries? What about takeout, restaurants, entertainment, kids, activities, other things? Thanks. And so a lot of people, real answers, like this is how much money, this many hundreds of dollars I'm spending, and this is what's really going on in my life. But one person wrote sarcastically, $1 million. Right? So, and this is how we are all feeling right now, that everything is just costing more, and really it might as well just be $1 million. And I think that this really speaks to how important it is with the theme of Financial Literacy Month this month, of managing debt in a changing world, and how the cost of living is on everybody's minds. I want to thank you all for listening to me today. I want to thank you all for keeping financial literacy and financial wellness your top priority, and always for Canadians. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rubina. That was great. I know my mortgage is coming up for renewal this year, so I'm kind of worried on the rate I'm going to get, but hopefully, the bank will be willing to negotiate with me. Your suggestions on where we as a financial ecosystem should focus our efforts on building financial literacy during these changing times is really greatly appreciated. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite FCAC's Deputy Commissioner of Research, Policy and Education, Supriya Syal, to come up and say a few words. Supriya?
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have mask lines? Things we say now that would have made no sense pre-pandemic. First of all, I will apologize for my gargoyle voice, but you know, it is on point for Halloween, so enjoy for one more day. I don't have COVID, nobody worry. I do have a small child, which is like signing up for a germ delivery service, so, you know, 10 on 10, recommend. Okay, well, Rubina and Marianne, thank you so much for your remarks. And you know, I really appreciated both of you mentioning just-in-time information. This is something we at FCAC have been very keen on communicating to everyone, and it is in fact a part of the National Financial Literacy Strategy as well, because just as you pointed out, you know, people are most likely to use information when it is relevant to them. So thank you for that. So we live, as many have said today, in a rapidly changing and complex world. The last 3 years, we have had not just a worldwide pandemic, we've also had major conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, Israel and Palestine, and at least 5 other conflicts in the world, in Myanmar, in Maghreb, in Mexico, Sudan, Ethiopia. Energy and food prices have soared, debt burdens are at an all-time high, and the sheer number of financial products and services that are available to consumers is frankly dizzying. Every day, there is an overwhelming amount of information people are barraged with. And our brains simply do not have the capacity, they don't have the metabolic capacity to process all that information. In fact, if we tried, our brains would probably explode. So, what can we do? Our role, the role of those of us gathered here, and many of you who are attending online, is to help people live better financial lives. Our role is to create a financial ecosystem that is accessible, inclusive, effective, built around consumers, and enables appropriate financial decisions and choices among those consumers. We, the financial ecosystem, must create the conditions necessary for people to achieve good financial outcomes. We need to remove the barriers that get in people's way. We need to add catalysts that will help them. And then and only then can Canadians build the financial skills, the behaviors and capacity which will result in those better outcomes, which of course are also endeavors we need to help them with, as Marianne was alluding to in her presentation. And that is precisely what Canada's National Financial Literacy Strategy, released in 2021, calls upon us to do. It calls on all of us to work together to make change that counts for those that it counts the most for. And as laid out in that strategy, the onus for that change is not on individual consumers alone. We, the ecosystem, share the responsibility of helping consumers in Canada achieve good financial outcomes. So we are gathered here today at the halfway point of that strategy to talk about what we have achieved so far and what remains to be done. So, what have we achieved? One of the biggest milestones was the launch of the National Financial Literacy Strategy Measurement Plan. The Measurement Plan, launched last year, is our tool to measure progress by creating a common language to assess that progress. By using the same metrics to measure the success of our initiatives, we can compare them, we can combine our results to find out what works, and also find out what doesn't work, and then do more of what does and less of what doesn't. We now have 25 organizations across this country that have signed up to be what we call adopters of the measurement plan. Adopters contribute metrics to the plan, and they also share results of their initiatives, which are aligned with the outcomes and the goals of the national strategy. Our current adopters range from large industry groups, such as Canadian Bankers Association and CPA Canada, and to nonprofits like ABC Life Literacy, Families Canada, other government entities. So I'm going to give you a few examples of things that our adopters are doing. So an example, FCAC, we worked with a group called Black Moms Connection, which, thank you, which offers Finlit U, 8-week financial literacy masterclass designed for Black mothers. And what we help them do is embed 6 simple measurements to track the impact of their work. And what we find is that Finlit U participants report that they paid their bills on time more often, they were more proactive on paying down debt, and actively sought out help with money. So kudos to you. Another example, ABC Life Literacy is a national charitable organization that offers free introductory financial literacy programs to adult learners called Money Matters. ABC Life Literacy have included metrics from the measurement plan into their program, and so their results are yet to be determined, but I will say both these examples will ultimately contribute and are contributing to the national strategy's ecosystem priority number 4, which is enhance access to trustworthy and affordable financial help. Rubina, as you were mentioning, the importance of that help cannot be underscored more. And of course, we, FCAC, have been trying to advance the goals of the strategy ourselves as well. So earlier, Judith mentioned FCAC's guideline on existing mortgage loans in exceptional circumstances, which we launched this past summer. This guideline was spurred by data gathered using some of the metrics from our monthly financial well-being monitor, and this guideline contributes to ecosystem priority 6, which is the last one here, this one. Strengthen consumer protection measures. This guideline was also accompanied by an easy to understand plain language information for consumers so that consumers could understand this very technical document, which contributed to ecosystem priority number 1, which is communicate in ways people understand. I am also proud to say that earlier this year, FCAC issued a supervisory bulletin to banks with our expectations regarding the use of non-standard forms of identifications to open bank accounts. This bulletin recognizes that in certain situations, a customer, for example, someone who is a survivor of domestic abuse or human trafficking, or someone who is a newcomer to Canada, might not have access to the most commonly used or accepted forms of identification. Like anyone else, these people deserve access to basic banking services, and banks should work to make this happen. This work contributes to ecosystem priority 2, which is build and provide for diverse needs, and of course also priority 6, strengthen consumer protection measures. In addition to ecosystem priorities, we're also working on the consumer building blocks. That's the green bar in this rainbow graphic outlined in the national strategy, such as financial confidence. And this is one of my favorite experiments we have done. So we know from earlier research that girls face systemic and structural barriers from a very young age that lead them and everybody around them to believe that they are not as good as boys at math, at numbers, which is of course the precursor to money. So we initiated an online intervention to try to address financial confidence among young people, both girls and boys, but grades 6 to 12, with a specific emphasis on bridging the gender gap in financial confidence and ultimately, literacy and knowledge. And our preliminary results, excitingly, indicate that the gap can at least be narrowed. We clearly saw those known disparities in the knowledge and confidence in girls and boys at the beginning of our intervention. But by the end of the experiment, girls showed a 7% jump in self-reported knowledge about money and a pretty substantial 15% jump in confidence. This kind of work shows that progress is possible and that eliminating these gaps entirely is an achievable goal. And most importantly, that we are making change that counts. The last piece of work we'll mention today is that we are developing a new measure of financial resilience, which, as you know, is the ultimate goal of the strategy at the very center here above that nice little hand. We need to be able to measure resilience in a holistic way that goes beyond people's level of saving and their ability to raise emergency funds. That is undoubtedly a crucial aspect, but it only scratches the surface of what financial resilience entails. Financial resilience is about the whole individual and the circumstances they find themselves in, hence this whole piece about the ecosystem. I've said previously that just as psychological resilience allows people to recover and get past negative life events, financial resilience allows people to recover and get past negative financial events. And what helps people get past these negative events, whether they're psychological or financial, is their own hard work and mental fortitude, but it is also their environment. It is also what is around them. It is also the systems they find themselves in. So this means that to measure resilience, yes, we need to consider a person's individual, resources, skills, knowledge, financial resources, skills, knowledge, but we also need to consider their environment, including the kinds of social and external supports they have, from friends and family, all the way to government resources and help from community organizations such as any of yourselves gathered here today in person or online. And that is what the new measure we are building does. It is a measurement tool underpinned by a robust, comprehensive conceptual model, and will broaden our understanding on what works for people as a whole, not one part of them severed from the rest of them. Collectively, we will be able to use this measure to build targeted and impactful initiatives to advance good financial outcomes and ultimately financial resilience. So that's a small flavor of where we're at. You have endorsed, adopted, carried the strategy forward, for which we are grateful, we are proud, and we are hopeful. At the launch of the strategy, I said that the strategy stands on the shoulders of giants. You are those giants. And boy, have you taken giant steps. Your support has humbled us, and it has spurred us forward. Because of course, so much still remains to be done. So what else can we do? What else can you do? Well, first, if you have not already become an adopter of the measurement plan, adopt the measurement plan. It's a wonderful endeavor, and I can guarantee you that my team of amazing scientists and researchers have worked with stakeholders across the country to help them use the plan to advance their own initiatives and to advance our collective progress. If you don't know how to become an adopter, write to us. We are so ready to hear from you. Second, and to share this important data even more broadly, we have developed a dashboard that speaks to some of the initiatives aligned with the national strategy. It shares findings, highlights, and profiles of adopters that are helping advance outcomes through their numerous and diverse activities. This dashboard is the first component of our research, data, and collaboration portal, which aims to be a central hub of research intelligence for the financial ecosystem in Canada. More on that to come in the coming years. Well, hopefully sooner than years, let's say months. A beta version of this dashboard will be launched this month, and we will plan for a more robust version to be available in 2024. All the tech bro terms you learn when you start working with things like dashboards. The second thing you can do as we continue to develop this dashboard is give us feedback. Feedback from, we're building this for you. our key stakeholders. And so feedback from you will be crucial in helping us design a solution that meets your needs and adds value to your work and to our collective work. So it's a little bit about how far we've come so far. There's so much more that I'm not talking about, but there is. And it's a preview of some of our next steps as we work towards achieving the goal of creating a more inclusive, accessible, and effective financial ecosystem for all Canadians. We will discuss some of these in greater detail at our virtual event for stakeholders on November 29th called Charting Our Progress, Making Change That Counts Together. So if you've not registered, you should do it immediately. We do hope that you can join us. And most of all, let's work hard and keep doing what we do best, which is continue together to make change that counts. Thank you very much, and back to you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Supriya, for that great overview of what we plan to do or accomplish in the next 2.5 years on the national strategy and the measurement plan. As mentioned, I really do encourage anyone who hasn't yet signed up as an adopter of the measurement plan to do so. We can have a much greater impact on financial literacy when we all work together. So we're almost at the end of today's event, but of course, Financial Literacy Month is just beginning. As Supriya mentioned, we also have a virtual event on November 29th to help bring the month to a close. Tout au long du mois de la littératie financière,
during the whole month of financial literacy, we hope that you will join us to encourage Canadians to look at their financial health and to take the necessary steps to manage their debt. Each one of the 5 weeks of November presents a different theme on strengthening financial resilience. There are therefore 5 unique opportunities to spread the message this month.
Hashtag FLM 2023 and share information and resources with your networks. On behalf of the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada and all of our speakers here today, I'd like to thank you for attending and happy Financial Literacy Month, everyone. Merci et bon mois de la littératie financière. So this concludes the virtual event. For the people who are here in attendance, we're going to be taking down some equipment at the back, so we would invite you to take in the museum general exhibition. The door is to the right, and then you can circle back at the exit and you can visit the financial literacy exhibit as well. Thank you.